Okay, so this next bit's about the drum pad. If we do a quick cable check, what we have left are 2 jack-to-jack cables, one there and one there, and 2 MIDI cables, one there and one there. Now we need to use all of these things in order to connect up the drum pad properly. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to connect the pad to the drum brain itself, because we want to send a signal, a MIDI signal, from this into this. Now if we turn the pad on its side and have a look around, we can see it's got a jack output. And that's the only output this has. There's no other place to plug in a cable, that's the only one. So you can't get confused, there's only one place to plug in anything, and it's a jack output. So I know that one of my jack cables must be for this part of the setup. So I'm going to choose one, and I'm going to plug one end of that jack cable into that drum pad. I'm going to lay that flat again. Now this other end goes into the brain, and where we plug it into will determine what kind of drum this is. As this is a MIDI snare drum, I'm going to make it make a snare sound. And if we look right at the top, again if I try and focus that a little bit, we should see the writing for the types of drum kit just along here. Tom, kick, snare, hi-hat and so on. If you're looking at colour coordination, then it's the pink input just there. Now if we turn this up on its head, because we're looking for snare, which is this one here, which is where the pink sticker is. Sorry, again this is hard to do with one hand. We should see that the pink sticker is just here, and it does actually say snare just there, and we're going for input 2. So we're going to plug that into there, and that pad now has become a snare drum. That will be a snare drum now when we plug it in and switch everything on. The next thing I need to do is I need to set up the ins and outs for sending and receiving MIDI data. Now we want to be able to send the MIDI data from this, which has been sent into the brain. We want to send that MIDI data from the brain into our computer. Now we're sending MIDI data, so it makes sense to use a MIDI cable. So I'm going to take one of these MIDI cables. I'll have that one. I'm going to take one of the MIDI cables and I'm going to set this one up to send data from here to our audio interface just there, which will connect to the computer. Now it doesn't matter which end is which, they're both exactly the same, so just choose either one of the ends. I'll have that one. And again, if we look at the top here, we can see, if we look along the top, eventually we'll see MIDI in and MIDI out, just there. MIDI ins on the left, MIDI outs on the right. And if we're looking at colours, again, they're the ones that are surrounded by red stickers. Now, MIDI ins, this one, MIDI outs, that one. And I've already said we want to send data from here to our interface. So, because I want to send, we're sending data out. So it needs to go into the MIDI output. So I'm going to plug in that MIDI cable into there. And that's now going to send data out. I'm going to take the other end, which is here, and I'm going to run this round to the back of my interface. Now the drum pad is sending data out, and this is receiving data. So data is going in at this end. Think of it like magnets, opposite ends. The MIDI drum brain is sending data out, so this is receiving data, so this needs to go into the in, so out to in. So I'm going to have a look at how that connects, and I'm going to plug that into the in end, just there. That's now ready to go. So that's now connected to receive data. I've then got the opposite to set up. I've got another MIDI cable left, and I've got another jack cable left. We're going to stick with the MIDI cable for now. I now want to set the opposite up. I want to be able to send data from my computer to the drum brain. So that needs setting up in the opposite way. This is now receiving data, so we need to plug this into the MIDI in because it's receiving data into the brain. So again, doesn't matter which end, I'll choose that one. Turn this upside down, and we can see again, surrounded by a red sticker, we've got MIDI in. So that's going to go into MIDI in. There it is, if I didn't drop it. that's now connected into the in. We'll take the other end of this cable, do exactly the same thing, bring it round the back of the setup, and that's going to go into the MIDI out because the computer is going to send data to our drum pad instead. There we go. So that's now sending data out. So if I do a equipment check again, all I've got left is a jack cable. Now this is where people tend to get lost. This is the last stumble that people tend to do during this setup. And what this is for is sending audio from this. Essentially what you're creating is a loop. Now MIDI data will come from the computer into the audio interface and then into the drum pad via that MIDI cable there. We then want to send the sound from here back into the interface and then into the computer to record it. We must remember that MIDI cables cannot carry audio. They only carry data. So if we want the sound from this, we must do it via a jack cable. Otherwise we won't get sound. We will only get data, ones and zeros. So again, jack leads work either way. I'll pick any end I like. And I'm sending an output. I'm sending signal out. So I'm looking for an audio output. Now if we look along the top, we have an output, L and R, left and right. This is only going to send a mono output, so it doesn't matter whether it's going to send left or right, either, doesn't matter, you choose. Now if we look at the back here, I can't tip this on its side now, but we have left here and right here, and it really doesn't matter which one you send it to. I'm going to plug it in the left. That drum machine is now set up to send audio. Now this is what I keep saying to you guys, and I'm hoping this is getting through. We've got to set this up as if it's a bass or a guitar or something of that kind in order to record data now. So I'm going to take the last end that I've got to plug in, and I'm going to connect it to the front of my audio interface, exactly where you would plug in any guitar or bass. And I'm going to plug it into input 1 just here. That is our audio setup completely done. Everything is plugged in, everything's ready to go. So I'm going to stop this video and I'm going to talk you guys through the actual internal workings of the computer and getting that set up.